Alright, so hello everyone and welcome back to something that I actually haven't really done before. We will take a look at the TMNT characters. The assets just got released a couple of days ago, so yeah, peasants like me are finally able to make content about them. Yep, has been a time. As always, I think you're kind of accustomed to the delays by now. But yeah, I'm back. I have time again, and yeah, we're chilling. Um, Before we start though, I just noticed something. Thank you a lot for the 1,000 subscribers. That is a lot more than I expected at the start. We're just getting started with some rookie low production values videos. Well, yeah, now we're here. Thank you a lot. Means a lot to me to read through all of your comments. I read all of them and try to answer every single one if there is a question or anything else you point out. So, yeah, thank you a lot for that. But, yeah. For this video, like I said, I'll give you a rundown of my overall thoughts of all the TMNT characters after having played them a bit and also gathering some community insights. I have to note though that, of course, these fighters are still extremely new and we didn't play them as much yet. There are some that I played more than others, most notably Shredder, Krang, and Raphael. Those are the ones that I played the most and can also talk the most about, I guess. Um, the other ones, not so much, but yeah, we'll still go over them because I still feel like we have some general understanding of how these characters work and what their strengths and weaknesses are and where they will overall probably fare in the competitive spectrum. Um, so yeah, to start, we'll go with Leonardo. Now, Leonardo is a melee fighter, move 2, of 16 health, has a sidekick that's also melee with Splinter with 9 health. And you can, at the start of your turn, move any fighter one space. Now that's a very cool ability. I really like it and how you can use it as a player because you can, of course, move Leonardo to be kind of a semi-move 3 fighter. You can move Splinter to set up pins or get in with him. You can move opponents to maybe like break up some adjacency effects, like I don't know, better together from Annie. She has to be adjacent to Charlie to actually heal. You can break that up just at the start of your turn, so she basically is never able to heal. Um, so there are some really interesting interactions you can get with this ability. It's definitely quite strong, and I really like it. Now, for his cards, we'll start at the top with the schemes. For Splinter, we have Protective Father. Splinter may swap spaces with another friendly fighter. If he does, they both recover 2 health, gain 1 action. Now, you'll see a trend in this deck that, of course, because it's also an adventure set, these fighters, being the turtles, of course, were meant to fight in teams. So their value just goes a lot higher when you consider something like 2v2 or adventures in that case as well. So in these decks, you have a lot of effects that say any fighter, where, of course, in this case, in 2v2s, you would have even more options, or swap with another friendly fighter in like comparison to your other fighter. It's just kind of like with Annie, how Better Together says if there's an adjacent friendly fighter, it doesn't have to be Charlie is adjacent or whatever. So yeah, these sets will definitely mate with the idea of adventures in mind. Um, but overall, still, even solo, this card is still really nice, right? Because at any point in the game, Splinter can just play this and swap with a friendly fighter, in this case Leo. It doesn't matter where he is. He can be on the other side of the board. Leo might be pinned. And then Splinter can just say, nope. I'm in there now. Leo gets to recover health. And, yeah, Splinter is in the pin now as a 9 health sidekick, which is so beefy. Damn. And overall, from what I've seen, people doing is most of the time everyone just ignores Splinter. At least that's the consensus I've seen. So having this card as basically 4 healing is quite nice. And then next up we have one of, if not the worst card in the deck in my opinion. We have Leonardo Leads, which is another scheme. This time for Leo, we have move each fighter, each friendly fighter up to 3 spaces, draw 1 card. Now, that is basically just a move 3 maneuver in a 1v1. Sure, in 2v2 or adventures, you can move a lot more fighters and thus set up a lot more, but basically this is just a move 3 maneuver. While you're a move 2 character, although you can technically start of turn move 1, so you're kind of semi-move 3, and with this semi-move 4. That's not great. Like, spending a scheme for that is just not good. The great thing about the card, though, is this wonderful 4 boost value. So, that's, in my opinion, the only thing this card is used for. Being able to move yourself or boosting up turtle power, which we'll get to. But, like, that card is just not great. Like, I almost never see a reason to actually play it. You can also not move through opposing fighters, so it can't even help you get through one of sidekicks or escape pins or anything. It's just a move 3 maneuver on a scheme, and that's not good. Then we'll get to Heroes in a Half Shell. This is one of the 2 common cards that each of the turtles have. It's just a printed 5 value block. Nothing much to say about it. It's a great defense and still has the 3 boost in this case, like with Bats laugh at your feebleness. So yeah, there are some fun interactions like with Ghost Rider's Penance there, but usually a 5 value block is a 5 value block and not much the opponent can do about it. Great card. Then we go for Wise Beyond His Ears. After combat, if the opposing fighter is in fewer zones, then Leonardo deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. 3 copies for Leo. Now, this card is interesting because the effect itself is actually way more conditional than you'd think in most games, right? Because as you see, Leo has no passes. This technically is a semi-pass because, yeah, sure, you heal 2 on Leo, but since you gain the action, you'll have to maneuver and then draw the card again and thus take 2, so yeah, basically no pass. It's only a pass if you use it before, and then I can attack a lot more with Leo because he swaps spaces or whatever. But yeah, technically he doesn't have passes. So you will have to be the one approaching every single game. And thus the opponent can basically always just end in a duo zone. And since you're a melee, you have to be adjacent to them to attack them, and basically this card never triggers. Almost never. And even if it does, it's still basically a worse point blank. Right? Think about it. Yanenga's point blank is still a card that you usually don't like to defend with that often, especially like against heavy hitters. You like more often attack with it, in my opinion. But this, as an attack, as we said, doesn't really work because you have to chase the opponent. So you have to play it as a defense, which will most of the time still be a blank 2. Or in best case, okay, let's say they attacked you with a 4, you deal 2 damage back. That's quite nice, but they also get their effect because they probably win combat or something else. So it's just not a great card. I can see why the positioning stuff is on there, because like Leo's whole thing is like positioning the opponent and moving around and yeah, having a lot of movement effects to mess with them. But yeah, it's just not a great card overall. Then we go to I Have a Plan. It's an any card immediately. You may discard 1 card. If you do, cancel all effects on your opponent's card and ignore its value. Now, that is quite interesting. Because, first of all, that means you don't have a cancel if you don't discard a card. So, this card kind of has like 2 implications. Either they play something like, I don't know, a Bigfoot lock, and you discard a card, and you basically boosted it for 4 thus, and you don't take damage, in which case you're really happy. Or you're playing, I don't know, against Little Red, and she plays hands, and you have to discard a card just to cancel the effect, and the ignore doesn't do anything. So it's quite interesting that you have to discard a card if you want to cancel. Now, good thing is you don't have to. So you can just play this as a blank 2, which is of course awful, but it can still be enough, like in the example hands or whatever. Ignoring the value is of course great. So basically, if you play this card on defense, you know that you don't take damage because you both cancel and ignore. And if you attack with it into anything that's basically not feint, you will deal 2 damage. Both, of course, at the cost of 1 card. Now, that's okay, but it's just, again, kind of like a downgrade to cards that we've already seen, right? We know Highway Robbery. Highway Robbery just works without you having to discard. You have Little Rat's Eyes, which is just basically the same card, but without discard and as a 3. Sure, it's like more conditional on like the setup, but still. It's a bit weird, because sure, it kind of gives you the mind game of, okay, yeah, I can deal you 2 damage no matter what, or I just throw a 6 at you. But at the same time, discarding the card isn't great. We've already talked about, yeah, you're down in fatigue, you don't have passes, you don't have like any extra value in the deck, so discarding even more cards yourself is not great. And only for 2 damage, often not worth, and like on defense, they have to be attacking with something like, I don't know, a 5 or higher for it to be kind of worth, or like some really good effect. Like, I don't know, Sinbad's Voyage Home, which would be huge, of course. But other than that, again, it's just kind of like a side grade or downgrade to an already good, but not insanely good, already existing card, which is kind of like the theme of the deck. So yeah, it's fine, but yeah, the discards hurt a lot, and often the effect doesn't even do as much. Like, especially if you're getting attacked by just, I don't know, just a 4 that, I don't know, draws cards or whatever. It just feels bad to discard 1 just to cancel or ignore that. Yeah, I don't like it. And then we go to the other Splinter card, which is Spatial Awareness. After combat, if the opposing fighter is in fewer zones than Splinter, deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter and draw a card. Now, this is of course a bit more interesting, because this is basically the exact opposite condition to Wise Beyond His Years. No, it's not. It's the exact same condition. I don't know what I was saying there. Yeah, my bad. I read it as, yeah, if Splinter is in fewer zones than the opposing fighter, but it's the other way around. Okay, yeah, forget that. Then this is not interesting, so they still card in the exact same way, and you don't have an effect. Wonderful. Professional player, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah, again, you will have to be the one approaching. They will be in more zones than you because they know about these 2 cards, and yeah, you don't have an effect. This is blank 3, it's bad. Although, boost 3, so yeah, boost, woohoo. Then, Quick Strike, just 3 value, draw 1 card. Basically a snipe. It's okay. It's nothing great. It exists. Not much to say. Can help you keep up with hand advantage and like pressuring a lot more, but do you want that? I don't think you do. Then we have Eat, Sleep, and Breathe Ninjutsu, which is again kind of like a side grade to already Electro's Ninjutsu. We have place each fighter adjacent to your fighter in another space in their zone. So, of course, if Splinter is defeated, this is a blank 3 without anything else. And even if it's not, you can not move yourself, but only the fighter adjacent. So it can't even help you escape a pin or like move yourself around. It can only basically help the fighter that is not being attacked, because you won't attack with this yourself, let's be real. Um, which is not great because usually like movement effects are so strong because the fighter that gets attacked is then able to move away and does like escape a second attack or escape a second like a weird situation where you don't want to be in. But with this, you can't even do that. Let's say Leo is pinned and yeah, you're getting attacked and you play this, yeah, sure, it's a blank 3. Or like at best you can move Splinter. Sure, does that really help you? Not really. Like that's the reason why like Electros Ninjutsu or like other move and effect cards that let you move through opposing fighters, I don't know, Hoax from Bigfoot or whatever, why they're so good. Because they let the fighter that's getting attacked, that plays the card, escape. Like put some distance in between them, the opponent being able to regroup then and yeah, set up some other things. But with this, it kind of goes contrary to the idea of movement effects, in my opinion. So yeah, I really don't like this card, and it's just quite bad, in my opinion. Then we go to Turtle Power, and this is a great card. It's a 3-value boostable, and we've already talked about it. You have 4-value boosts that you are very happy to throw away. You have 3-value boosts that you're really likely and happy to throw away. So this can be a 7, which is basically a second shot from Medusa. You don't complain about that. That's great. That's a lot of damage. So, yeah, we like the card. And then we go to Fearless Leader. It's a 3-value attack. During combat, add +2 to this card's value for each other friendly fighter adjacent to the opposing fighter. Now, this, of course, in a 1v1 can only be a maximum of 5. And of course, you have to have both of your fighters adjacent. So, it's quite telegraphed, to be honest. And even if it is, it's basically just a 5. And most of the time, like I said, you're a move 2 fighter. So, you'll probably have to boost to get both of your fighters adjacent to them. And then this is basically just a 3 boosted by a 2. And that's not so great. It can still be fainted, although, like, okay, yeah, sure. Faint a print 6, technically. But, yeah. It's again, like, sure, it's a decent-ish card. It's like the take on Shift. And again, in like 2v2 or adventures, this can be ridiculous. Like, imagine pairing this up with Squirrel Girl. Um, because all the squirrels count as friendly fighters. But in a 1v1, again, this is just not great. Like, overall, it's just not good. And then we have Force Sensei, which is a 4-value attack. After combat, move both fighters in the combat up to 1 space each. You may discard 1 card to gain 1 action. Now, this is the only card that helps you get around your problems, in my opinion. Because it says move both fighters in the combat. 1 space each. So, what you can do, for example, if you're going in and attacking with this, you can then move them into a single zone and then, I don't know, move Leo or Splinter, whoever's attacking with this, into a dual zone. And then you actually have these 2 cards online. And then can maybe attack again. Problem is, to actually gain the action for this, you have to discard 1 card again. And as we already talked about, you don't want to discard cards in this deck. Like, sure, you have a lot of bad cards, but the problem is, you're a move 2 fighter, you don't have passes, so you have to approach and boost almost every turn. And you don't have any extra value. So any card that you discard is gone forever. And you already have to discard cards for boosting. And as we see, like, you don't really have anything great to play around. So every card you waste is wasted. Guess what? But yeah. Gaining the action can be fine, but you're also not really a combo character, so that's also not really your win condition. Sure, it can help you just slapping a 4 into, I don't know, a 6. But yeah, other than that, this card doesn't really do much. And even if you do gain the action, then thus move to have these 2 cards online, does it really help you? Like, okay, you could get 2 auto damage, which is quite nice. The opponent could also just like throw a feint, but sure, you can punish that with a 6, so I guess there's a mind game. But if they have any kind of movement effect on defense, like, I don't know, Hoax from Bigfoot, they just overthrow that, then they can move, and this doesn't trigger, and they only take 2 against a 6, and yeah, I don't know. In best case scenario, you're getting 2 of these triggered by playing these 2, but then again, you're discarding 1 probably just to attack again. So, yeah, you're basically discarding 1 card for 2 damage, which is okay. It's the same trade as here. It's not great. So, yeah, I don't know. And then, of course, we have your printed 6s, which we already talked about a bit. It's printed 6s, it's logs, it's great. But I think overall you can already see what my overall problem with the deck is. You don't have a win condition, except for Big Unga Bunga. And don't get me wrong, I love Big Unga Bunga. But I love Big Unga Bunga where the deck supports Big Unga Bunga. Like, look at Alice. You can throw so many scary things with +2. Like, everything you throw is scary. With this, you have 2, maybe 3 attacks. You have your printed 6s, which is great. You have boostables, which you have to discard 1 card basically to make them higher, which is okay, but like you lose value again. And then technically you have ignores. Well, that's like not much. If we think about it, you're also extremely squishy, because if you think about it, you only have 1 block that blocks for 4 or higher. The rest is all 2s, 2s, 3s, 3s. You don't have a high quantity of blocks. For one of the blocks to work, sure, it can be a full ignore, but you have to discard a card. For this card to have a decent effect, you have to discard a card. For this card to be good, you have to discard, basically. Sure, it's boosting, so you add the value, so you still get value from the card, but it's kind of discarding. So, if you just want to use your effects, you're discarding 3, 5, 7 cards. And again, you don't have any additional value. And you're boosting a lot just to get to them. Like, yeah, this deck definitely was made for 2v2 or like more specific adventures. You can definitely tell that. This is the 1 out of the 4 deck that just doesn't work in 1v1s. The deck is just not made for that, and that's fine. It's just for a competitive point of view, he's just not good. Really not. Overall, I think most players have settled around him being in like D, maybe C tier at best, because sure, he still has some printed 6s and 2 7s, and can deal damage, technically. But basically, all of the meta-relevant fighters just cook him. Because they can just run away the whole time, they make him boost, they put sidekicks in the way, they make him discard cards, either random or normal, and then, yeah, he doesn't really have anything to play for in the game. He doesn't have, like, a clear game plan or win condition. He just says, I have big values. Like, I have some big values. Okay, I slap them and I hope they do something. And there's not much more. There's also kind of like a bit of a missed opportunity with the ability, I feel like. I don't know, you could do a lot more with that. But yeah, overall, deck is fine. It's not great. It's like a deck that I would say is like quite good for beginners because it's not really complicated. It has a lot of movement, so you get more options and they can see, okay, yeah, I can do this, and thus they also get introduced to the like whole movement thing and positioning. But other than this, like, it's just not good and by far the weakest one out of all the 6 turtle characters. And it's not close. Okay, now that we're done with Leo, let's take a look at another turtle, being Michelangelo. So, Mikey, what do we have here? We have a move 3 fighter. Already like it. We are melee with 14 health, and we have a ranged sidekick. Wonderful. 6 health with April, and okay, my Alexa activated herself. Wonderful. I don't know from what. Um, that will stay in the video. No worries. Um, can you please be quiet? I don't know if you're even hearing it, but yeah, I don't know. After you attack or scheme, draw one card. Your starting and maximum hand size is 3. What? When I first read this, I was like, okay, that's interesting. So, basically, if we think about it, what does this actually mean? First of all, you start with 3 cards in hand, so you have 27 cards in deck at the start of the game. Okay, interesting. You have a maximum of 3 cards in hand. So, like, big combo turns, you might not like them. But, you draw a card each time you attack. So, whenever you spend a card to attack, you instantly replace it. So you can keep up hand advantage, in a sense. You can keep your hand at like 3 the whole time, basically. If you scheme, you also draw one. So, again, if you spend an action with a card, you instantly get it back. That's quite nice. But game mechanics wise, the most important thing is you start with 3. The opponent can always first turn double maneuver. You cannot. Because you would instantly overdraw 2, because you start with 3 and your max is 3. So you'll have to be boosting a lot, and thus getting to them and then being able to attack. But even if you don't have to, let's just imagine this because it happens in a lot of Mikey games. You start your turn with 3 cards. You then maneuver up to 4 and attack them. You have 4 cards in hand. Now you attack them, you spend 1 card. Your ability instantly regains it. So, if you don't have any ways to spend an additional card, for like boosting or discarding or whatever, you'll always have to discard 1 and overdraw. So, ideally, if you don't have any of those tools, you want to be playing at 2 cards in hand, because you then maneuver up to 3, and then can attack and get it back, and thus end at 3. But that means you'd have to start your turn at 2 cards, which, of course, would be fine. Because if you think about it, you end your your turn at 3 cards each time. The opponent attacks you probably. You go down to 2. Then they maneuver away, which is wonderful. So you maneuver up, attack, replace it. And that's like Mikey's whole game loop. Now, how do his cards actually interact with that? Let's start with the schemes again. We have an April only scheme. How? How does Alexa get activated from me saying April? Okay, who cares? Being shell insurgent. Choose 2 different effects and you have 4 options. Holy. Each opponent discards 1 card. Okay, discard. Nice. Move a friendly fighter up to 2 spaces. Okay, you could have also just maneuvered to do that instead of playing the scheme. Maybe not so great. Put a card from your hand on bottom of your deck to gain 1 action. Now that's cool. Because what that means, in our example, if you started your turn at 3 cards, you maneuver, you then play the scheme, you can put another card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain an additional action, draw 1 again for the scheme from your ability, and then you can attack because you gained an action. So you attack and replace it. So this card actually really helps you if you started your turn at 3 cards to not just overdraw this card. And it can still get you some overvalue, like the discard from the opponent. Or, the last option, shuffle 2 random cards from your discard pile back into your deck. mandatory. You always do this. I think the best use of this card is by far getting the last two effects, right? Because it helps you with your hand management, it gives you an additional action, so this card is not just played for a pass, for fatigue, which Mikey is not a fatigue fighter. And you get to recur 2 cards because you will, like I said, probably be boosting and overdrawing a lot. So this card really helps you managing your hand, being aggressive, keeping up the aggression because you can instantly gain the action again. And it of course gives you extra cards. Wonderful. Really like this card. And it still has some other options that might get used in some cases. So, really like it. Then, Nunchaku. We've already seen this in Bruce's deck and love to see it here again. Add +1 to the value of Mikey's attacks this turn. Game on action. Now, that of course already tells us a lot about the deck. You like have action gain here, conditional on the scheme, you have action gain here, and like +1 for each time you attack, so you'll probably have a lot of action gain coming forward. Which, yeah, you do. But, yeah. So, just having +1 for a whole turn, nice. You can technically play both of them, and in the same turn to have +2. That's great. That's what I would recommend you to do. Because combo fighters usually work in the way that they spend all of their cards, attack, 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 in one turn. And then they reset a bit and do the same thing again. So they have one big turn where they keep the opponent's hand size down, and then they retreat a bit and wait. So in this case, what that means is you can either have one big turn with like 5 or 6 attacks for +2, which would be great. Or you have 2 turns that are probably not as lethal with +1. And I really prefer the +2 option of that. Next up, we have Michelangelo is a party dude. Each friendly fighter recovers 1 health. That's okay. It's like, okay, sure, 1 healing for both you and April. I think the healing for April is more important, because you definitely want to play both shell insertions. And keeping her alive thus is quite mandatory. And as we will see, she doesn't have a lot to block with. But it's like not mandatory. You're a pressure fighter, you attack a lot, so she probably won't get attacked that often anyways, if Mikey is just there wailing at the opponent. So, yeah, I think this is like one of the worst cards in the deck. It's okay, it's still good. It's not a pass, because remember, you still draw. So, you can't just play this to, like, get down your hand size. So I think like this is one of the prime candidates to boost with. Just from my experience in playing it. It also doesn't gain you an action, which is like contrary to the game plan. Like spending an action just to basically play this and heal 1 and draw a card is just not really worth it in my opinion. You could just like boost with this and then keep attacking and keep the pressure up, because that's the whole thing of the deck. If you give them time and just play this to heal 1 and draw a card, and then they can double maneuver and get away, and you'll have to boost with something again next turn. And yeah, I just don't like it. It's cool to have the option of healing, but I think in this deck it doesn't really work that well. Then back for seconds, 2 value block any. After combat, shuffle 2 random cards from your discard pile into your deck. Great. It's random cards, again, so you don't know what exactly you'll get when you play this. But there are things you can do to play around it. Of course, you want to play either of these 2 quite early, because you have less options to shuffle back. If, for example, at the start, you had 1 good Nunchaku turn, and like spend a lot of good attacks, and then you can next turn place shell insertion, there's a high chance that you'll get Nunchaku back, because you only spend, I don't know, like 5 cards. So sniping 1 card that you want out of those 5 is way easier than out of like 15 later in the game. So I'd always recommend playing these as early as possible. You get additional value, you can more so control what you get back, and of course, in the case of back for seconds, it's a 2-value block, so you don't really care that much about taking a lot of damage early game, right? Because later when you're at 4 health and you only have this as a block, that's not so great because you might just die if the opponent attacks you with 6. So you basically waste the value, whereas if you play this early, you can still get the cards and then thus keep pressuring and then later play your good blocks when you actually need them. So, yeah, really cool card. I like it that it's random, because if it wasn't, this deck would kind of be a bit broken. But yeah, really like it. That's a total of technically 8 recursion that you get, which you also need due to the overdraw and boosting and stuff. But yeah, quite mandatory. Also a reason why the opponent might want to offensive feint you, but at the same time, they don't. Like, if the opponent is able to offensive feint you, and like have the time for that, and they are comfortable with spending a feint that way, you probably did something wrong. Alright, next up we have Heroes in Half Shell again. Wonderful 5-value block. Just like we said before. You can play this early, take some damage because you have some reliable blocks coming up, like this, the 5. Wonderful. We love it. Then we have Let's Go. It's a 3-value versatile. Move a friendly fighter up to 3 spaces. Now this is basically Leo's Ninjutsu in better. Or like, should I say, it's just like basically Dusa's Dash in better. Because it's a friendly fighter up to 3 spaces. A friendly fighter is the fighter you played this card with, or April, or like Mikey in the other case. So you can move either of them up to 3 spaces. Wonderful! You can move the fighter that played the card, if you want to escape like a double attack. You can move the other one, like if, I don't know, Mikey's getting attacked, you can then move April in for a surprise attack from ranged. Who knows? Or if like the opponent is ranged and he's attacking Mikey, you can play this to move to them to double attack. Wonderful card. Really like it. Way better than Leo's. And then, Guaranteed Delivery. Interesting card. Immediately, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to cancel all effects on your opponent's card. If your hand is empty, draw 2 cards. Okay. What does that mean for you? You have technically a guaranteed cancel as long as you have 2 or more cards in hand. That's already good. It's a 3-value cancel, which is even better. And there's of course like an optimal use case scenario for this, which is if you are at 2 cards in hand, right? Because then you play this as one of them, put the other one on bottom of deck to cancel, and then thus can draw 2 cards. That's quite nice. And if we go back to our example before, what your ideal game plan is, right? You start your turn at 2 cards, you maneuver to 3, spend 1 to attack, replace it, you end at 3. They probably attack you once, you go down to 2. And then you have the cancel online. Quite well. Sure, they can go for an attack that might want to get cancelled early, right there, but there's a cool mind game. I like it. But then after they attack you, okay, you have that wonderful 2 cards again. So if they want to attack you a second time, there's always a big threat of getting 3-value cancelled. And then they can't move away, so you'll be able to wail on them. So just this card alone usually means the opponent will never double attack. Never. Right? Because you can always get back the hand advantage that you lost by drawing 2 again. So you're basically replacing the card itself on defense, which is great. You cancel their effects, so they'll stay probably adjacent to you. And then you can start slapping them again. And since you don't ever lose hand count when you attack, that's wonderful. So I really like the implications of this card, and even if you're not at 2, you can still like look at the opponent's cards, see, okay, yeah, is it worth canceling or not? Is it worth to put one of the cards I have in hand right now at bottom to cancel the effect or not? Really good card. Really like it. A lot of interesting decisions to make. Great. Then we have Kawabanga. Wahoo. 3 value versatile for Mikey. Add +1 to this card's value for each other card you played this turn. That can be scary. Now, imagine this. You maneuver as your first action. Play 2 Nunchakus, which means your attacks are +2, and you already played 2 cards. Just that makes this a 7. If you play both of them. And then you will attack with something action gainy, like the ones that we'll get to. And then this can be like an 8 or 9 as a finisher. Beautiful. Beautiful. I would always recommend to pair this card with Nunchaku. Because just playing 1 Nunchaku basically bumps the value of this card up by 2. Because you get +1 and +1 for playing the card. So that's again why I'd also recommend getting both Nunchakus played in one turn. Because it just bumps your damage so much higher. So much higher. It's a difference if you, for example, like smack with 2 5s into, I don't know, 2 3s throughout the game. Or if you once smack with 7 into 4 into 4 into 7. I think that's just way more explosive damage, and that's way better. Great card. Really like it. And even on defense, if you somehow still get double attacked, you can still, like, your first defend with something else, and then you can play this, and thus play this as a 4 value block. That's quite nice. You don't like to spend it as a blank 3, but sometimes you still have to. It's not that bad. Like, you have 3 copies of this. You won't get to play all 3 of them on a Nunchaku turn anyways, so it's fine to spend 1 on defense. But yeah, really cool card. Then we'll get to an April only card. It's a 0 value attack. Wonderful. I already love it. Deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter. Game on action. Now, 0 value attacks are weird. Right? They're baits. They're baits. They're always baits. And in this case, it's a wonderful bait, right? Because, keep in mind, your ability doesn't say if Michelangelo attacked or schemed. It's if you, the player, attacks. So, this will still draw you a card. So, what you're basically doing is if you're attacking from range with April, they're spending a card, you still deal them a damage, you gain the action, so they basically full wasted the card, and you keep your hand up. Wonderful. Great bait. Really good. Now, of course it's a 0, so problem is, will the opponent take April's attacks? Okay, let's look. What can she attack with other than this? Let's go. Okay, valid, it's A3, and it might move Mikey adjacent to them. So if April is attacking from range and Mikey isn't there, she can throw basically a wonderful bait with action gain. Or she can throw this, thus move Mikey in, and then he can wail on you. That's quite interesting. And you don't really want to be taking 3 against Mikey, because if you're going down in health by taking hits, you of course get even closer to a lethal Nunchaku turn. But on the other hand, if you only have like 1 or 2 defenses in hand, it might be always worth to take April attacks because there's a chance of it being a 0. And it's probably better to take 3 than taking some worse things that we'll get to if Mikey's coming in next. And the third option that you can throw is the cancel, which is really nice because that means you can cancel their movement. If, for example, like you're adjacent to Mikey, If the opposing fighter is adjacent to Mikey and like April is also able to attack them, you might just want to attack with April first, just because they're incentivized to take. So you might deal them 3. Or if they play some combo breaker with this, you can cancel it and then draw your 2 cards again, and then start waiting with Mikey while they already spent their movement defense. Quite nice. Really like it. So there are some really cool mind games played. And even for the case, like you have 3 copies of hard hitting, right? You probably won't play all 3 of them. Sure, you have some nice options you can do with this, but like there are better things to attack with that gain you action. And therefore Mikey. So you'll probably play 1, maybe 2 at best. Good thing is this is also a 3 value boost, which is quite nice, because as we know, Turtle Power is a common card in all of the decks, so you have a 3 value boostable. Nice. Next card, we have Boisterous Beatdown. 2 value attack after combat, gain 1 action if you won the combat to gain 2 actions instead. Regroup with action gain. Beautiful. Whoever had the idea of designing this card, I love you. Gaining an action already, I mean, we already knew that Mikey would be a combo fighter, but this is great, right? You go in, you attack, you replenish your hand, you attack again, you get your hand back, you attack again, and so on. You can just keep attacking as long as you have cards to attack with. Great. Now, the if you won the combat effect is of course curated to if they take, right? Because they usually against like, I don't know, raptors, for example, if they're going in, they maneuver it first and they attack you, the chances of that first attack being something small, like an action gain, is quite high. So often if you don't have many defenses in hand, you might take the first one, right? And then defend the higher attack to not waste any of your defense value. This card is exactly designed to exploit that. Because if they take, you then gain 2 actions instead, so you get even more tempo. And can attack even more. Wonderful. So in both cases, either they basically waste the defense card, and you still gain the action and can attack, or they don't waste the card, and you gain 2 actions and it can attack even more. Wonderful. Wonderful. Then we have Turtle Power. I already talked about it on Leo's deck, but in this deck it's of course a bit different, because you're an action gain character. You're a clear action gain character, so this is a great finisher or a feint punish, right? Because if you're on your big Nunchaku turn, this will be a print 5. So if they feint, they take 3. That's good. And if they don't feint, this will be a print 5 that you can boost by 3. So it will be an 8. So they, even if they are one of the like more or less characters that have 5 value blocks, usually before like 4 values or max value blocks, but I'd say you can probably say that the 5s are now, because there are so many characters that have 5 value blocks now, they still take 3. So either way, they take 3. That's great. That's a good finisher for lethal. We love it. Turtle Power in this deck is not just a big Unga Bunga, just big value go boom. It's actually quite interesting. It has mechanics, and I like it. And then last one we have Hia! I don't know if that was interesting. I don't know. I'm going insane again. Holy. It's a 4 value attack, 3 boost. After combat, deal 1 damage to an adjacent opposing fighter. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 action. Mwah. Wonderful. Even if you don't do the bottoming, which we'll get to. This is still a 4 with 1 ping. And the 1 ping isn't conditional on winning like Savagery, it's just 1 ping to an adjacent fighter. Wonderful. So basically, it's almost always a 5. Cool, cool. Now, again, if we're talking about your Nunchaku turn, this becomes a print 6. Decent feint punish, I'd say. And even if they don't feint, you deal damage, and you can still gain action. This is basically a 6-value action game. Damn! I like it. So, that's great. However, the putting on bottom to gain an action on your combo turn is of course not so great. Sure, if you have like any of your blues or a scheme, wonderful. You put that on bottom each time because it's something you can't attack with. And then you of course draw a card and gain action. But if you only have like other attacks in hand, like other action gains, it's not so great, right? Because you want to have more options in hand and like keep attacking with having options. But still, even if that's the case, I think on your big combo turn, when you're able to play this card, you'll probably kill them. So yeah, really good. Really like the deck overall. Now, let's talk about weaknesses. Well, the obvious thing is counter pressure, right? You're at 3 cards max in hand. If they are able to draw a bit, keep up with you, and then attack back, I don't know, maybe they played a defense that draws in 2 cards into your first action gain, and thus they, I don't know, go to 5 or 6. And then you can't pressure their hand down, and they're able to double attack you. You go into 1 card in hand, and you basically have to double maneuver because you probably won't have many options. And talking of options, you don't have many defense cards, right? You have so many reds and 6 schemes. There is a chance that you might not even have 2 defenses in hand. So you really hate to be counterattacked. That's also why, again, I really love delivery so much, because it helps you keep your hand up on defense. And like, if you don't have something to defend, you put, I don't know, an investigation, one of your zeros on the bottom, and then draw 2 cards that are maybe actually useful in the case. So, yeah. If you're not able to pressure them enough that they can not stab you back, you will crumble quite fast. But again, there are not many fighters that can withstand you with so many action gains. Sure, they might move away and then you might have to overdraw 1, but that's fine, you have 8 recursion. Right? It's just about that one big turn where you kill them. Or where you put their hand down and then threaten them so much that they don't maybe have enough time to draw enough defenses again. You can just keep slapping. So overall, quite the volatile fighter. You're still playing at 3 cards the whole time, so getting that perfect action chain turn is quite hard, right? I'd say usually you wait until you have both nunchakus in hand and then you just send them with whatever you draw. Or if you don't manage to get them in some reasonable time, okay, it's still fine to play 1 and then combo with the stuff you have in hand, because you'll always have to adapt at the moment. There's nothing as planning in Mikey's deck, in my opinion. It's just like, go with the flow of the moment, and that's really cool. It kind of reminds me a bit of Titania and her glamour movement, with how she utilizes them and just goes with the flow there. Really like it. But yeah, again, you might be susceptible to like inconsistent draw because you only have 3 cards in hand the whole time. You might not have defense for like the first 10 cards and die instantly. Or you might block yourself up with schemes at some point and don't have anything to do but to overdraw. Who knows? Might happen. So there is a bit of inconsistency in the deck. But yeah, he's quite nice. I'd say he's overall like a low B, high C tier character, where like most of the other combo characters are as well, like Bruce or Raptors. I think he fills a similar-ish niche, with just like a bit more of an interesting game loop, in my opinion, with like the extra draw and pressuring counter pressure. But yeah, he's nothing too crazy, but definitely a valid pick if you want to counter like slow scheming fighters that take a lot of time to actually build up. So, we're done with Mikey. let's start talking about Donatello. You are a melee fighter. 14 health, move 2. 7 health melee sidekick with metal head, and your ability is inventive. When you maneuver, you may draw 2 cards instead of 1. If you do, put a card in your hand on the bottom of your deck. After you play an invention, tuck it under this card. So, let's take a second and talk about this ability. You may draw 2 cards instead of 1. Okay, someone might think, okay, fatigue. Aua. We didn't like drawing 2 on Hamlet, we probably don't like drawing 2 here. Right? Wrong. We love drawing 2 here. Because you put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Which means you draw 2, put 1 back into deck, so you basically draw 1 again, but you got to see more of your deck early. So there's a lot more consistency. And you can put any card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So cards that you don't want to have at the moment can go bottom, or cards that you know you will want to have later can go on the bottom. So what this means is, in the early game, you basically spam this. There's no reason to ever not do this, in my opinion. At the start, I don't think it matters that much what you put on bottom. You will usually just be the cards that you don't want to have at the same time, because like you're going through your deck at double the speed. So the cards you'll put on bottom will be like card number 15 or 16 in your deck. However, where it matters is in the mid game. Like when you're at, I don't know, 16-ish cards in deck. Right? You already maneuvered like 7 or 8 times maybe before, so you know the last 7 or 8 cards. And then if you spam this ability a bit more, you will at some point throughout the mid game know your exact deck order. Which is of course huge. There's no inconsistency anymore, you know exactly when which card is coming. And I definitely recommend you, if you're in an online competitive format, make yourself a copy of the deck and keep track of it, where you put what card. It helps you a lot, but where it helps even more is setting up for fatigue, right? Because there are certain cards that you want to have later, there are certain cards that you want to have early, and knowing when you exactly will draw what card in endgame is huge. And you can actually set up cards that you want to draw at a specific timing. I think that one is a bit harder. Just like setting up cards that you want to draw at the exact right time. I think that is maybe a bit overcomplicating the thing, and you might just overthink it. But it can still happen in the right circumstances. And again, just knowing your entire deck order is huge. There's a lot of planning in this character. There's a lot of room for skill expression in that case if you're able to perfect plan your deck order, which I've seen some people say that they're able to, or that there's the possibility to. I'm kind of mixed on that, because I don't see a world where if you're at like, I don't know, 10 cards left in deck, you can exactly predict what card you will want to draw at what time if you put them on bottom. So like you can't really like plan 10 turns ahead and then say, okay, yeah, on that turn I definitely want this card before that card, and thus I put this on bottom first. I don't think that works to that extent. I think it will come down to overall intuition of the game state, what you think is right at the moment, and just your game sense as a player. I think that's the most important thing for playing Donnie. It's just, okay, what card are you willing to put on bottom at what time, or what card do you think will benefit you the most at what time when it's at the bottom? And it's much less about just preparing your deck in the perfect order, like many people suggested. I don't think that's a thing. But like I said, the deck knowledge is still huge. Now, let's go into cards. We have a Metalhead scheme, the future of ninjutsu. Look at the top card of any deck, you may put it on the bottom, draw a card, gain 1 action. I never use this card. Never. I see the use of it. It was designed for adventures, and looking at the top card of a villain's or a minion's deck to see, okay, is it deception or not? Huge. Huge. Then getting up your hand again and gaining the action, so you can still attack twice. Great. In a conventional 1v1 setting, though, does this really help you? If you're looking at the top card of the opponent's deck, okay, you might gain 2 pieces of knowledge. First, maybe you see a card that they only have 1 copy of left, and thus you know it's not in hand. Maybe at the last feint, which might be huge. Then you can know, okay, he doesn't have that in hand, so I can attack something that I know will not get feinted. That can be interesting. Or you just reveal a overall important card to them, like, I don't know, a beast form from Dracula. Who knows? And then you say, aha, there's a beast form. Let's put that on the bottom of the deck. So he'll draw it as the last card, so he'll probably not have that many cards in hand anymore at that time, and thus beast form is not as scary and I don't have to worry about it. Those are like the 2 big use cases for this. I think you almost never, if you play this on your own deck, because there's just not much reason to. Sure, it would help you to cycle through a bit faster, but I think the value you can gain from maybe sniping an important card from the opponent's deck is way higher, because you already have a lot of consistency and rapid draw through your deck. Now, is it actually worth to play this though? I mean, sure, it gains an action, so when you play this, you can just do it and then keep looking what you'll do after. But at the same time, it's a card that you waste and you then draw 1 and thus get pushed further into fatigue. So it's not great value-wise. It's interesting. I think this card gets more important when you have, like, when the opponent has less cards left in deck, because at that point the chance of you sniping a card that's like the last copy or seeing something important is higher. Like, playing this early game just doesn't really do much in my opinion. Sure, you can put an interesting card on the bottom of the deck, and then you also start to know what their fatigue game, end game card draw order will be. But since you only have 2 copies of this, I don't think it's that important. So overall, it's an okay card. If you're just playing pure value, I think you're not playing it, which I think is the playstyle for Donnie, pure value. But there are definitely some cases where it can matter and can help. So it's like not exactly bad to play this. Like, I don't know, Robin's not Highway Robbery, the Steal from the Rich. It's not a bad card. It just doesn't do a lot. It's fine to play it, but it's not great. Then we'll get to your first invention. It's Smoke Bomb. Remove up to 4 scheme cards in your discard pile from the game. Gain that many actions. When you play a scheme, gain 1 action. So how these cards work is you play them normally and resolve their effects as usual. In this case, you resolve the scheme effect. And then after you played them, right, you put them under your character card, and then the wonderful purple line down below, the invention side, will stay active throughout the game. So it basically passive buffs you. So in this case, after you played this card, you will gain 1 action whenever you play a scheme. What that means is this will gain 2 actions, and the other ones will each gain 1 action. I don't think that's worth. I don't think gaining 2 actions on this scheme is quite nice, because you just don't have the tools to be an action game combo fighter, in my opinion. And you don't really have anything to really like profit on to utilize the action game with. It's a fine thing to do for the actual scheme effect itself, like removing 4 schemes that you already played or discarded, and then getting that one big turn without losing actual value because you only remove them from the game from discard pile. Whereas if you play this and then don't remove anything and you use your schemes with an additional action, you'll get 1 action extra here, 1 action extra there. It's okay, but it's nothing great and it won't really help you. Whereas the one big turn might come into consideration later. So this is by far, in my opinion, the weakest invention. It can still swing games. Like playing this and gaining 4 actions is great, but that's also the only time I would probably use this card. Then we have Party Wagon. Move a friendly fighter up to 5 spaces. They may move through opposing fighters, then deal 2 damage to an opposing fighter they move through. Basically Jackalope horns in better. You can still move through, you move 5, but 2 positive things is, 1, you don't have to end adjacent to the opposing fighter to get the 2 auto damage, because often Jackalope isn't in move 5, and then thus Bigfoot has to maneuver first and then play horns, and then Jackalope of course ends his turn adjacent to the opposing fighters so they can counterattack. With this, you don't have to. You can maneuver up, move 5, move through them, and then still end like 1 or 2 spaces away. Wonderful. And it's not bound to your sidekick. It's a Donnie card, and you can move any friendly fighter. You can move Donnie himself, or you can move Metalhead. Wonderful. That's basically 4 guaranteed auto damage. You will get this throughout the game. And that's really nice. It's also a pass, which is quite good. Oh, also to say, this technically is also a pass if you don't remove any scheme cards. So that's already 3 passes, and that's great. Then, Donatello does machines. You and each other friendly player may return an attack, versatile, or defense card in their discard pile to their hand. Draw 1 card. Recursion. Now, of course, the main thing this card was designed for is if somehow one of your inventions gets discarded or you had to play them suboptimally and you didn't want to. No, not play them, like you had to discard them for some reason, or like boost them away or whatever. That you can return it to hand and then thus play it again to get the value. However, this card of course has many other uses. Right, you can return any of your combat cards to hand. So there are of course options like you'll get another boostable with turtle power, you can get another 5 value block, because why not? You can get another cancel. Sure. Or what you'll probably do a lot of the times is getting thinking heads, which we'll get to later, but yeah, it's just great to have the option of getting whatever you want, basically, except scheme spec. Really good card. Gives you a lot of utility. It isn't a pass because it draws you 1, but you basically get a card back, so value-wise, this is great. You basically swap that card for any card from your deck, combat card-wise, and like we know from Golden Bats Alpine that how strong that can be, just swapping one of your schemes for any card from your discard pile. Wonderful. Then, next invention, Self-Defense Grid. After combat, remove up to 4 defense or versatile cards in your discard pile from the game. Donatello recovers that much health. And then the invention effect is add +1 to the value of your defenses. Now, this is the only healing you have in the deck. So, removing defense cards from the discard pile just to heal might be worth considering. It is a 2 value block on its own, so when you play this, you're probably taking a decent amount of damage. But at the same time, okay, yeah, what are the cards that you want to remove? Well, you have a lot of them, defense or versatiles. It's fine. Like, the thing that removing does interact with is you can't recur the card anymore with Donatello Does Machines or Thinking Ahead, that we'll get to later. So don't ever put any cards away that you want to recur later, like maybe your cancels, or I don't know, your Heroes in a Half Shell, if you want to recur one of them later. Don't remove both of them with this card. But at the same time, it's basically a guaranteed you heal 4. And I think there's almost never a case where you just don't use it, because you will have some versatile cards that you are fine with not getting back. It's quite nice. Well, I'll also talk about that, which cards are fine to get away once we actually talk about them. But that's quite nice. And then, of course, having the passive of having +1 on all of your defenses from there on is great. It makes you a lot tankier. It gives you basically 4 value after combat phase. It gives you 6 value blocks. You become so tanky at that point that it's really hard to deal you damage. And that, of course, helps you a lot more value-wise, because you'll not take damage, so you can focus more on slapping the opponent with more stuff, and that helps you, of course, by killing them. And then next we have Bow Staff. It's a 3 value block. After combat, deal 1 damage to an opposing fighter adjacent to Donatello. Draw 1 card. It's fine. It's quite a basic card. 1 ping is always quite nice. Remember, this can be a 4 value block. That's quite good. You draw a card, so you replenish your hand. You don't lose hand advantage when you get attacked. That's also quite nice. This is one of the cards that you can usually always remove with Grid, because this is not a card you really want to recur to your hand. If you just want defense, there are better options. If you want ping damage, sure, that might be a reason, but it's a defense only, so you can't actively do anything with it, so the opponent will play around it and you don't really get the value. And it also draws you cards, so for fatigue is also not great. So this is a card that you usually never recur, so you can always remove it. But that said, it's not a bad card. Really not. It's still decent. It's 1 ping, a 3 value block with a draw. So it's Snipe plus, and sometimes can even be a 4. Really good. Nothing to complain about. You just have better options. Then, Heroes in a Half Shell, 5 value block, or in this case, maybe 6. Great. Nothing more to say about it. Might be worth removing one of them. Is okay. Both, probably not. I'd always keep one, just having the option to recur a 6 value block if needed. Then, Shift Focus. Move another fighter in Donatello's zone up to 3 spaces. They may move through other fighters. This is kind of like the regroup of the deck. It's not that great on its own, but it can help you in setting up. It is a 2 value versatile itself, so if you defend with this, you're probably taking a lot of damage. If you already have your invention as a 3, this becomes way better because you're not taking that much. Then, on defense, okay, move another fighter in Donatello's zone up to 3 spaces. So you can't move yourself, so it's not a combo breaker. It can, however, help you move the opponent away if they are in your zone. So in that case, it might be a combo breaker again by moving them 3 away, and then they might have to maneuver and boost to get to you again. Or if it was their last action and Metalhead is in your zone, you can move Metalhead adjacent to them to start double attacking. It definitely has some uses. It's, again, better than Leo's card, but it's definitely like one of the worst in the deck, because it doesn't do much on its own, and you don't really have many tools to like actually support movement effects. Like, you don't have big action gain turns except for the one with your scheme invention. You don't have many things that you would want to move Metalhead next to them and then start slapping. Sure, he can attack with a lot of stuff, but yeah, you can also do that with Donnie. But it's just kind of like a nice card to have. It's nothing too great, but also nothing bad. And then we have a Metalhead only versatile, untested enhancements. During combat, discard the bottom card of your deck, add its boost value to this card's value. So basically a 3-value card with a blind boost, although you always know what that blind boost is, because it will be the bottom card of your deck. Remember, you have your ability, you put cards on the bottom, so you basically always know what you will be discarding when you play this card. Problem is, you have to discard. It isn't may, it is you have to. And that is not great, because in a lot of cases, Metalhead will be there, will be attacked, and you're like, I would want to defend him. But I also don't want to lose. I don't know, maybe you put a Heroes and a Half Shell on bottom. That's not that great. Or maybe you put, I don't know, a Future of Ninjutsu on bottom, which is only a 1 boost. And like trading a 1 boost for discarding a card, not great. I see the idea of this card. Setting up like technically a 7-value attack later if you have the attack invention. But at the same time, this card always feels bad to play. You will know what you lose, and that doesn't make it better. That always only tells you, okay, yeah, I don't really want to lose that card, so I'd rather not play this. There can be a point in the game where you just are stuck with all 3 of these in hand and are like, well, I don't really want to attack with them because I have a great card on bottom of deck. So, yeah, what do I do? These are definitely like the primary targets to remove with self-defense grid. So, I don't know, if you're early game having to discard something, or boost and overdraw or whatever, this is your number 1 priority. You get rid of them instantly, because again, you're mostly playing a value game. And blind boosting basically with your own cards is not great for that. Then we go for Short Circuit. Immediately cancel all after combat effects on your opponent's card. Now, that's basically caught in a web from Widow, which is already a decent card. But remember, in this deck, it can be a 4-value block. So, 4-value after combat cancel is great. That helps you a lot against many like movement effects, or ping damage, or recursion, or card draw. What you won't stop with this is any type of bump value, or like cancels, or ignores, or whatever. But it's quite nice to deny the utility, right? The after combat effects are usually the utility effects that help the opponent, just like repositioning, or drawing cards, or whatever. And since this can be a 4, it's not even that bad if it goes into something like, I don't know, a shift, which you would usually want to cancel, and then thus take 1 with the usual feint. If this is a 4, the shift still only deals 1 damage because it bumps to a 5, so that's still great. Overall, really good card. I think you always want to keep at least 1 or 2 in discard, just to be able to recur them, because additional cancels can be insanely good in specific matchups. It basically always also guarantees you a double attack, because movement effects, like I said, are on after combat effects, so you cancel those and then can attack again. That's really nice. And again, it helps getting rid of the opponent's utility, and that's always great. Then we have Quick Strike. Already seen this in Leon's deck. Draw a card on 3 versatile. Basically snipe. Nothing too great. Nothing bad. Wonderful remove target for grid. And nothing special you want to recur. But still a good card. And then we get to Electro Grenade. Holy. During combat, remove up to 4 attack or versatile cards in your discard pile from the game. Add +1 to this card's value for each card removed. And then the invention is +1 to attacks. So, This is, in my opinion, the most important one, for reasons we'll get to later. For first, the remove effect. Again, there's not really a reason not to do it, except if you only have good cards that you don't want to remove. But again, if you have Metalhead cards in this card, if you have Shift Focuses in this card, if you have Quick Strikes or Bow Staffs, why not? There's one reason why not. Because then you can't remove them again with Grid. That's the only part why I'd say you don't do this. Because I, for me, value the potential for healing more than the potential like 2 damage you'll get with this, right? Because the healing you get from Grid is guaranteed. For each card you remove, you will net heal 1, whereas this is a 2 that just gets bumped for each card. So if they defend with a 4, the first 2 cards removing won't do anything. So that's why I value the healing more. Just it also helps you play your value game way more. So this card, it's fine to not remove anything, but if you have enough cards there or you already played Grid, there's not really a reason not to do it. And again, you remove the same cards as with Grid. You don't ever remove any of your attack cards. And speaking of attack cards, we have Turtle Power. Great as always, 3 value boostable. In this deck, maybe a 4. So you can get this up to a 7 again. Wonderful, you love to see it. Usually it will still be a 6 because you'll probably boost with like an enhancements or I don't know, shift focus, but you can boost with your scheme invention. That's definitely doable, or a bow staff. So yeah, usually will be a 6 if you have your +1, but can be a 7 if needed. And then we get to Thinking Ahead, which is, in my opinion, probably the most important card in the deck. It's a 3 value attack that says after combat, if you won the combat, you may put a card in your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. Now, 3 value attacks winning combat is not happening in any world. Like, most of the cards that are 2 value or lower are feints, or the opponent won't defend with them. So, this will probably never win. But that's why, in my opinion, this is the most important invention. You try to always mulligan for this. Get your +1 early, because then Thinking Ahead becomes a 4, and force winning combat is way more likely. And each time you win combat with this, you get a card from discard back into your deck. So it's basically a recursion. It helps you play your value game quite nice. It can recur itself. It doesn't say non-scheme, so you can also like recur auto damage. You can get upwards of like 10 auto damage just by recurring this 3 times. Then you can recur Thinking Ahead twice with Donatello Dust Machines, and then recur another 2 of these in the optimal scenario. This will never happen. But technically, you could have 14 auto damage and like a ridiculous amount of passes. Won't ever happen. You will probably trigger like 3 or so in a game. In which case, you'll still have like 10 auto or whatever you need in the situation. And this card is just kind of like what really helps you play that value game of yours. Because again, you will have a decent amount of health, right? 14, potential healing 4, that makes 18. 7 health sidekick, that's quite beefy, that can waste value. You have recursion, you have more recursion, you have a decent amount of passes. You have some movement to make the opponent boost. You have a decent amount of cancels and just high values. So yeah, Thinking Ahead just really, like, you usually recur the same cards. It's either thinking Ahead itself, a cancel, or like maybe a party wagon if you're just in fatigue and can finish off the opponent with that. So yeah, still there are ways to recover other cards, and there will be certain scenarios where that's the way to win. But yeah, usually those are your prime targets. And that overall is Donnie's deck. I mean, he's quite solid. He's like overall B, maybe B plus fighter, probably. He doesn't have like any clear big weaknesses, but he also doesn't really excel in anything. He can have a potential combo turn. He can play a potential mean value game. He can have potentially some quite nice high value attacks. He can have a lot of very good defenses and not die. But it's all just about how you actually play it and how your deck works, how you plan around it, when you draw what cards you put where in your deck, and so on and so on. So it's a lot of skill and impression. You'll have to find a win condition in each game separately from each other, because you won't have the same game against the same fighter twice with how you play that. Sure, there might be cases like, I don't know, Robin, where you can just guarantee trigger thinking ahead the whole time and thus, go infinite. But that's like the rare case where you do the same game plan each time. I think he's a fighter that really rewards good players for knowing what they're doing with him. And he definitely seems worth getting into if you're like interested in those planning ahead or thinking ahead fighters. And yeah, definitely quite nice. Okay, so now for the last one of the turtles, we have Raphael. And Raphael is a 17 health melee fighter, move 2, with a sidekick called Casey Jones, who's ranged with 8 health. Mwah. And at Raphael, our boy has anger issues. On each of your turns, the first time you lose combat, gain 1 action. That is scary. That is scary, let me tell you that. Potentially 3 actions each turn. Mario dreams of this. Genie dreams of this. It's really good, right? It gives you an extra action to keep up pressure, and that's the whole idea of Rapha's game. Pressure. What that means is, on each turn you will probably be able to maneuver and then still double attack. So the opponent will have to spend 2 defenses, and then they double maneuver, so they draw 2 cards back, and then you do the same thing again, and since they always only draw 2 cards, you attack twice each turn, really can get their defense count low quite fast. Now, problem is, it only happens if you lose the combat. So, there's a huge mind game to be played of always taking Rapha's or Casey's first attack. Because if you do, you will never lose combat, or he will never lose combat, to say, and thus he won't gain the extra action. You can basically spare yourself 2 defense cards in exchange for upwards of 17 damage. Don't worry about it. But yeah, that's always a funny mind game to play with him, and that's also why I think he's probably, it's one of the reasons why I think he's probably the best of the turtles. But I think we'll have to jump into the deck to actually see why. First of all, we have a scheme, which is also the only scheme in the deck. We have Raphael is cool but rude. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to at least 1 friendly fighter. Draw 1 card. Now, this seems not so great at the start, but this can really help in the matchups that you wouldn't be able to play normally otherwise. For example, Muldoon. I played the Muldoon matchup with Raphael a lot in preparation for the tournament in Barcelona next week. And I went in with the impression, okay, yeah, Muldoon will just stomp him because Rafa has no real way of getting to him. Which is correct. He doesn't. But he has this. Dealing 1 damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to at least 1 of your fighters can be huge for clearing out 1 health sidekicks. Sure, the opponent will know about the scheme, so they'll never put their fighters in a way where you can ping more than 1 with each of your fighters, but that still means you get rid of 2 1 health sidekicks in exchange for a scheme card, which is nice. Right? You don't spend your combat cards, you still get up your hand with the drawing. It's not a pass, but Raphael doesn't really need passes. He's not that much of a fatigue fighter, as much as he is a value and pressure monster. So in usual like 1v1s against like the normal characters, like I don't know, Bigfoot or Achilles, this card won't do anything usually. It's not that great, but it's really good to have as an option to deal with 1 health sidekicks, or as a finishing tool to deal that guaranteed 1 damage looking at you any. Then we have Heroes in a Half Shell. Don't really have to talk much about it. Already had it 3 times. 5 value block. Wonderful. Also, you only block in the deck, and everything else is something that you can attack with. You just let that go through your mind. You have 4 cards in the deck that are not attacks. Wonderful. We love attacking. Okay. Let's start with the first one. From Casey, we have a 2 value versatile Slapshot. During combat, if Casey is adjacent to the opposing fighter, this card's value is 6 instead. So basically, just Daughter of the Dragon from Misty. Wonderful. Really nice. Having a 6 from your sidekick, already big incentive to kill him. And he has 8 health, so he's juicy, he's beefy. They'll spend a lot of resources to get to him, and then Raphael will be able to slap at them even more because they're occupied with sidekick. Wonderful. Now, this is a 2 value versatile. Why I'm saying this? It is a high possibility that the opponent will feint Casey cards. Why is that so? The feint cancels this effect. The feint cancels a lot of the other interesting effects that we'll get to. And there's basically only 2 cards that Casey throws that are above a 2 printed, which are Relentless and Better Up, which we'll get to later. So they're very likely to feint Casey because they won't get punished for it, and they can cancel some really good effects. What that means, however, is when you attack with this and they feint, you will lose the combat. Right? Because you don't deal damage. This stays a 2. So you gain an action. And then you can attack again. Since they played a feint, they didn't move away, so you can guaranteed attack again. And that's, in my opinion, a huge interaction and a very clever design choice that I really appreciate a lot. They could have made this a print 3, and this card wouldn't be nearly as good. I think the lower printed value actually helps this out a lot. So, really nice touch. Really like the interactions you can get with this. So, for the opponent, it's still scary to feint Casey attacks, because you will basically always gain an additional action. So either they can choose, okay, they might get slapped with a 6, or you can just attack again. And you might attack with another one of these. And that's of course really scary. Then, next up we have a 2 value versatile, any, Payback Time. During combat, if you lost the combat this turn, this card's value is 5 instead. Now, on its own, not a great card. In the context of this deck, quite nice. Because if you just look at this card on its own, if you lost a combat this turn, that means there has to have been a combat before. Meaning if you just maneuvered and attacked, well, that would have been it. So just attacking with this card wouldn't do anything. Only defending with this card without any prior interactions, this is blank too. Really not good. In any other deck, this card would be garbage. In this one, however, it's quite nice. Because if you first attack and lose, then, of course, you gain the action and can attack again. And then, this will be a 5. Well, that's quite nice. And it's a print 2 versatile again for Casey, that Casey can use. So again, you might want to attack with a Slapshot early as first attack. Then they have the chance, okay, yeah, do I get slapped by a 6? Okay. Or do I feint? And thus he loses combat, can attack again, and he already lost combat, so he might attack with a 5. Wonderful design. Love it. Really good. Deck flows perfectly. So that's quite nice. On the other hand, if Casey might get double attacked, who knows? Maybe you take the first one. He has 8 health, right? He can withstand some. Then you lost the combat, and then You have this as a 5-value defense coming up. Why not? Really nice card. It's not game breaking, but it's quite nice to have the utility, and it's quite a threat a lot of times. Because whenever you already lost a combat, you always have the chance to just throw a 5. And that's nice. Then we have break something. Immediately cancel all during combat and after combat effects on your opponent's card. After combat, if no effects were cancelled this way, deal 2 damage to an adjacent opposing fighter. This is for Raphael only. So first of all, Raphael only, meaning Casey doesn't have feints. Again, really cool. Interactive. Only cancelling during and after combat effects is interesting. Because what does that do? It usually stops value bumps, boosts, draw, movement, recursion, ping damage. The only things this doesn't cancel is other cancels, something like Terrifying Roar, denying movement or denying card draw, or I guess something that like setting value like Stasis. And what it doesn't cancel is cards that don't have effects. This card is, as far as I know, the reason why the rule change for Excalibur was made. Because this card does not cancel Excalibur. Because Excalibur does not have any during or after combat effects. Because it's a card without effects. So you would still deal the damage. And that's quite interesting. Usually, you can still rely on this, cancelling most of the effects that you'd want to cancel, right? Exceptions are like, I don't know, Yanenga's Archer Revive. That's kind of it that I can think of right now. I don't know. So on defense, this will usually be just fine. And if the chance is that, I don't know, Bigfoot slapped you with a lock, okay, at least you deal 2 damage back. That's quite nice. Where it is way better, however, I think, is on attack. Because, think about it. If the opponent played an immediate effect, meaning you don't get to cancel anything, it will probably be a feint, or something similar. If it is a feint, you will lose combat, which is great, so you get to attack again. If it isn't feint, if it's some other kind of immediate effect, okay, you still deal 2 damage, and you probably still lose combat, because yours only is a printed 2. If it isn't a feint, meaning you will cancel during and after combat, if they stay in place, you still played only a print 2, so you probably still lose combat. They stay in place, you attack again, because you gain an action. Really good. I love this card. Really cool. Now, worst case scenario, of course, is if the opponent takes. In which case, you still deal 2 damage. Right? So the 2 auto damage you would do, or the extra attack you would get, is converted into just 2 blank damage. But that's still, like, not bad. They can't afford to take that many hits, because at some point, like, you still have 6s and more 6s and more 6s to slap them with. So they can't afford to take that many attacks, because at some point you will get lethal thresholds. Really cool. Love it. And then we already get to the best card in the deck, which is Relentless. It's a 3-value versatile any, and it says after combat, shuffle this card into your deck, then draw 1 card. This effect is bonkers. That is insanely good. A card recurring itself into the deck and then drawing 1 to keep up hand size is just... Mwah. Mwah, it's good. This is just such a game changer for Rafa. Because this basically means you can spend almost all of your versatiles on attack. Almost all of them. Because you will have this that recurs itself the whole time. Only way to stop this on defense is offensive feint. which, to be fair, is quite nice against Raphael, right? Because there's not many things you want to feint when he's attacking, except for turtle power maybe. So offensive feint into Raphael is something that you definitely want to consider to stop this. But at the same time, that's where the shuffling of this comes into play. Because if this, I don't know, was like the battle hardened effect where you put it back to hand, the opponent would already know, okay, yeah, you definitely have it in hand, and then of course you want to play this as often as possible, right? To get the most value out of recurring it. So they'd probably be able to predict when it's coming and then snipe it with feint. But because you shuffle this into deck, they never know when you have it in hand. And that's great. Now, of course, if they have some kind of chosen discard and are able to discard this, you lose a lot of value. But usually, whenever you play this card, whenever you have this card, you play this card. Right? They can't really know when you have it, so whenever you do, just play it. I wouldn't really attack with it, because they're just better options, and as a 3, because the opponent is incentivized to block low on the first attack, or like feint it, you won't lose combat, so I wouldn't really recommend attacking with it, but defending, always. Whenever you have this card and you can defend with it, defend with it. Wonderful thing also is, it's an any, so Casey can play this. So Casey can actually be really tanky and annoying, right? He has 2 recurring 3s, he has technically 3 6s, 3 5s if he ever loses a combat because he has to take early, and he has 8 health. Casey is annoying. But yeah, I can't stretch how important this card is. If there is ever a game where both of these are feinted or discarded, or some combination of that, you will almost instantly lose. Almost. Because you just can't keep up the pressure. Sure, you have a lot of red cards that you can attack with, but at some point you will need to resort to your versatiles to finish the job. Or to just like keep your action chains going. And at the point where you don't have this to recur itself, you might get pressured back. Because as you see, you don't have that many defenses. Next up, we have Psy, which is the exact same card as in Electrosec. It's a blank 4 Velociter. It's good. It's still good. It's fine. It's a max value block. It's nothing great. I think you usually keep this for defense, because you don't really want to be throwing this as a first attack, because you will usually win combat with a 4. You also don't want to throw this as a second attack, because if you want some high values, there's just better things to throw. And it also doesn't have any effect that you want to trigger from attack, so I think this is like one of the 2 cards that you only play on defense, being this and of course Heroes in a Half Shell. The other ones I think are all better on attack, except for like Relentless, of course recurring itself. But yeah, those are like the 3 only cards that you basically only play on defense, and everything else you attack with. Wonderful game design. Then we go to Let's Do This. It's a 1 value attack. After combat, draw 1 card. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards instead. That's regroup. It's exactly regroup, but on an attack only. Who thought of this? I love it. Regroup in this deck, of course, is insanely strong. Insanely strong. Right? Because in other decks, regroup is already useful as a bait to draw the defense and then attack a second time. Maybe if you're able to double attack, and that while you keep up your hand. But in Raphael's deck, it's even better, right? Because if you lose the combat with this first, you gain an additional action. So this becomes an regroup with action gain. Wonderful. And even if they don't defend, okay, yeah, you feel a bit bad, because they only take 1. But you still get to draw 2, and then, of course, can keep pressuring the next turns even better. Really, really good card. Insanely good. And of course, this opens up the mind game. This is a print 1. They don't want to defend against a print 1. Right? Regroups, whenever you take a regroup in any game, you just feel like the king. It's such a satisfying feel. But on the other hand, you could be taking a turtle power, which well, we know that it's in the deck because all of them have it. Which could be 6. Or 7. That's why the mind game's coming. Does he attack low first, or does he attack high first? I think most of the time, in the early game, you will attack low. Because even if they don't defend, you still deal like 2 damage here, 1 damage here, 2 damage here. And then the damage will just add up, and then your high values will just kill them later. But like in mid game or late game, you might want to throw good stuff early. Why not? Mix it up a bit. You have options. But yeah, regroup in this deck is great. However, it isn't my favorite first attack. That would be crowd control. It's a 2-value attack, any, so Casey can also throw this. Draw 1 card for each adjacent opposing fighter. Deal 1 damage to each of those fighters. So, this, again, wonderful. It's a print 2. Meaning, feint, you lose. Any normal block, you lose. Wonderful. You love to lose combat. Also, you draw 1 card for each opposing fighter adjacent. Since you will usually be throwing this with Raphael. Raphael is attacking, so yeah, he's melee, he will usually be adjacent. So you still get to draw the 1 card that you would have drawn with regroup. Or with let's do this. I'll just call it regroup. And you still get to deal the 1 ping. Which is great. This can also technically be more than draw 1. But in any matchup with multiple sidekicks, the opponent won't allow you to get more than 1 ping with this. So you also won't draw more than 1, usually. The possibility is there, though. However, why I like this card way more is if they take, it's basically 3 damage and you still draw a card. That's way better than dealing 1 and drawing 2 yourself, because the draw 2 might push you way too far into your deck, and deal 1 is not so great. So this, in my opinion, is by far the best first attack in the game for Rafa. You have everything you want on this card. You replace itself, you deal ping, it's 3 undefended, and you usually lose combat. Really good card, one of the best in this deck. Might not seem like it, but I think it's one of the best in the deck. Now, what to do with let's do this then? Well, it's a 3 boost. You have Turtle Power, which is a 3-value attack that you can boost. I think the things line up there. I would boost away all of these, just to have the mind game still. But like 1 or 2 for the 2 Turtle Powers. Yeah, go for it. Then we have Unbridled Rage. During combat, discard any number of defense or versatile cards. Add +2 to this card's value for each card discarded this way. Now, this is interesting. It's basically Forever Hide in a bit less conditional, but also lower printed value. This can be a devastating finisher. Let me tell you that. It can be upwards of like, I don't know, 17. I think, in the worst case. Or like usually, okay, let's say 13 or 11. It's like reasonable. That's a lot. But you're also spending a lot of cards. I wouldn't really recommend throwing this any time early, because they will usually still defend most of the things, and then you basically wasted this card without it having any value, because you don't want to spend so many versatile cards early just to bump up the value, because you lose too much value. It's kind of like with Series Channel the Source. It's way better playing all those cards than dumping them as +2 into an attack. But later into the game, this can be lethal at some point. Or when they already took a decent amount of damage and don't have that many defense left because of your pressure, you might want to throw this as a first attack. Just because, okay, you can keep this as a blank 3, so it will probably lose combat. And if they don't defend, well, they die. Right? at any point when they're at, I don't know, 9 health or so, they can't really take attacks anymore just because of this card. Right? Because if you throw this and they don't defend, they might just instantly die. Wonderful. So it's more of a, okay, the threat that you have it is their card than actually getting value when you play it. However, if you want to use it, it has a 4 value boost, which means turtle power can be a 7 if needed, which is, I think, a way more reliable way to punish not defending. Throwing a turtle power early is still quite nice. Even if they defend for just 3, you can still decide, okay, do I not boost and gain the action, or do I just boost it by 4 now and deal 4 damage? Wonderful. Really good. And then, well, turtle power, we already talked about it. And last up, we have Batter Up. It's the last Casey only card. After combat, if you want the combat, move the opposing fighter up to 3 spaces. Nothing great. Like, this is one of the most mediocre cards I've ever seen. But in this deck, again, it works. Why? First of all, Casey's ranged. So, throwing this and then moving the opposing fighter adjacent to Raphael, if you want, is fine. Because, again, they are likely to defend the first attack low. So this winning combat is not as conditional or as impossible as you would think. Right? Usually this card, 3 value attack winning combat, I would say, never happens. In this deck? Yeah, might. Because they're quite likely to defend for like regroups, 1s or 2s, or even just not at all. Right? And throwing this just to deal 3 and then move them next to Rafa, and Rafa can slap with the turtle power or whatever. Sure. Why not? However, if they do defend and you don't win, so you don't get to move them next to Rafa, well, you lost the combat, and then you have a 5 online. Or a 6 if you're adjacent. Because you can attack again. Wonderful card. I love the design of this deck. Really good. Now, what are weaknesses? Move 5 maps. He really doesn't like move 5 maps. Reason for that being, Casey, even though he has 8 health, can still die quite easily, because even though the quality of his defenses is quite high, right? He has 3 6s, he has Relentless, he has 3 5s if needed. Those are the only defenses he has. So there might be a point where you just don't have defenses for him and he dies. And then you're a move 2 fighter on a solo on a move 5 map. And if you look, you have 3, 5, 7, 3 boosts or higher. It's only 7 times in the whole game where you get to the opponent. Now, sure, those times you can probably attack twice. So it's better than usual. But you're also boosting away your big slap cards, right? Turtle Power, Unbridled Rage. Those are the cards that punish taking. So, if you are forced, and Casey's dead, and you maybe even spent already 1 or 2 cards of these, right? Because they're cards you want to use, right? Maybe you played Turtle Power and boosted it with this. Then you only have 5 ways to ever reach them again. You don't have passes. You don't have any fatigue game at that point probably, and the opponent can run away. So on a move 5 map, keeping Casey alive is insanely important. It's already important on its own because Casey has 6 cards for his own. That's 6 cards that would be dead once he is dead. And like, he's just a nuisance, being ranged, you don't have to boost that much, and he's just a really good utility sidekick. I'd always recommend going for Casey first. But on a move 5 map especially, if Casey dies early, you become a sitting duck. And you really don't want that. Right? Because most of your good attacks become unplayable because you need them to boost to reach. The opponent knows that. They can take a lot. They can pressure you back or just run away. But overall, that is all just in theory, right? Killing Casey on a move 5 map will be quite hard, right? You can still body block with Rafa. He has a decent amount of defenses. He has 8 health. It will not be that simple. Just as something to mention. Overall, I think Raphael is like an easy A tier. He's really, really good. He has so much pressure. He has so many mind games. He has a lot of value with Relentless, a decent amount of blocks, very high values if needed, and he's just kinda good at everything. He can outpressure Moon Knight and kill him. He can play value with Engine due to Relentless and pinging off workers. He has a decent amount of health to stay alive. He has good blocks. There's nothing he really can't do, except for fatigue. And that's the only thing I think he really struggles with, is if the opponent somehow can like withstand his pressure and just run away the whole time, and you don't really do much damage, but yeah, in case he dies and you have to boost and whatever. That's the only thing he doesn't like. But overall, really good fighter. Really like him. Well, we're done with the turtles now, so let's start with the 2 villain decks that also came with Unmatched Adventures, being Krang and Shredder. And I'll just start here with Krang. Krang is a 16 health melee fighter, solo, move 1. Yes, move 1. And his ability is Doom. Krang has 3 Doomsday machines. Start with 1 machine active. Those are these wonderful thingies here. Those are the 3 Doomsday machines. After, you roll the die of Ultimate Destruction, which is just basically a d6. You can deactivate an active machine to reroll the die. Add +1 to your move value for each active machine. So, what that means. First of all, the die. The die is actually not a normal d6. The 6 in this case is a 0. So, in online play, whenever we would roll a die, when it's a 6, it is a 0. So it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, what this means is you have 3 machines. For each of them that is active, you have +1 move. So, since you start with 1 of them, you are a move 2 fighter. If you have 2 of them active, you're a move 3 fighter. If you have 3 of them active, you're a move 4 fighter. That is scary. And whenever your cards tell you to roll the die of Ultimate Destruction, you can deactivate one of the machines to re-roll. So you have a lot of randomness, but controlled randomness. And even more randomness. This deck is weird. Yeah, let's just start with the most ridiculous card in all of Unmatched. Let's be honest. It is IQ of 968. It has a random boost value. Yeah, you need to roll the die to determine the boost value of this card. So, for example, if you maneuver, boost with this, you might roll a 0. And then you boost it with a card that doesn't have a boost value. So in that case, you might want to deactivate a machine to roll again. Just as an example how this works. But what does the card actually do? It says activate all machines. Okay. So you have instantly all 3 active. Draw die cards. That can be 0 to 5 cards. Based on what you roll. That is ridiculous. Like, that is one of the most insane effects I've ever seen. Technically, if you're playing against T-Rex, she attacks you a lot. Yeah, okay. Let me draw 5. Sure, it's still based on, like, rolling a die, but since you activate all machines prior, you'll have 3 rerolls guaranteed, if needed. But it doesn't even stop there. After you did that, Krang recovers die health. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. what you usually do with this card is you try to roll a 0 or 1 for the draw, and then heal 4 or 5. Technically, if we just imagine you roll a 4 on each of the healths, right? You can heal 12 with all 3 of these, and you become a 28 health fighter. That's more health than T-Rex. A T-Rex has self-damage. Insane. Absolutely ridiculous. And T-Rex doesn't have many defenses. You do. Killing Krang is impossible. Pressuring Krang is impossible. Because you just draw 5 cards. This card is everything in the deck. Not gonna lie. If all 3 of these are buried, you instantly lose. If you have them just somehow spread through the deck, not much the opponent can do. Holy. This card is so weird. And it's so broken. I love it. Yeah. Let's move on. Surely the weirdness will end here. We have another scheme. Android arms. Wings. Move Krang up to die spaces. Krang may move through opposing fighters. Then deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter Krang moved through. Gain 1 action. Okay. Basically a through adversity from Daredevil with action gain. And you don't know how much you will actually move. This is probably one of the lesser cards in the deck. Just because the ping damage is only if you move through, right? And moving through means you'll have to move an additional 2 spaces to what you would need to actually reach them, right? Because let's say you move 1, 2 to them, and you would have to move 3 on, 4 through to actually get the ping. Which translated means if you are a usual move 2 fighter and the opponent is 2 away, to actually get decent use out of this for the ping, you'd have to roll a 4 or a 5, which is not likely. So the ping damage is really hard to get. What this is useful for is just the action gain, right? If the opponent is 2 away, you roll a 2, you go next to them, and you still have 2 actions to attack. That's good. But again, the ping damage, very, very unlikely to get good results with it. Right? Because you also would have to re-roll on bad rolls, and then you lose even more movement value. I think this card is just best played as just like a move action gain. Just ignore the ping damage. And then it's really good, right? Just guaranteed double attacks. Wonderful. Minimizer. 0 value block. Oh boy. Immediately decrease the value of your opponent's card by 4. After combat, end the turn. Yeah, what were they cooking? They were cooking a lot. I like this card. Reason. The decreasing card value is immediate, which means anything that bumps value or sets value during combat goes absolutely bonkers against this. If we take Tesla's death ray, right? The 3 printed value, immediately you would set it to 0, then he spends 2 coils, makes it a 7, you take 7 damage. Decent. Really like it. Of course, what this card is great against is high printed values. This only really works on high printed value cards. So, Bigfoot logs, just in general against Bigfoot, Krang is so good against Bigfoot. Yeah, against high printed value cards, this is wonderful. And then, of course, it's ends the turn. Meaning, if it was the first action, okay, yeah, you stay here. This also technically is basically an after combat cancel, right? Because you end the turn before their after combat effects happen, so disruption, wonderful. And yeah, it makes them really scared to attack you. Because sure, even if they have a bump value card, you might take like 5 damage if it's shift. Might happen. How good that you have technically 15 healing. You don't really care. The end turn is what you want, right? If the decrease works, that's a bonus, but you play this for the end turn. You can accept to take 5 damage. It's fine. You don't really care. Your blocks are good enough, you have enough healing. You just play this for the end turn to deny them a second action, or just to keep them where they're at. And for that, this card is wonderful. Then we have Welcome to the Technodrome. 2 value versatile. Immediately choose one. Cancel all effects on your opponent's card, or activate a machine. Really cool card. Like the choice. It's either, okay, you get a perma buff with movement and technically more die rerolls, or you can cancel. Now, this will usually be quite one-sided what you do. Either there is an effect you want to cancel or not. If there is, you pick the cancel. If not, you get a free machine. If you already have all machines, no reason not to cancel. Except if it's some negative effect that you want them to have. Who knows? But yeah, really cool card. It's just basically a feint plus, because you have a second option. Not bad at all. Then, Molecular Amplification Unit. Again, 2 value versatile. Immediately activate a machine. So, even more machines, even more rerolling, even more movement. Wonderful. During combat, increase this card's value by die. Now that means the expected value of the die, because it's basically a 0 to 5 is 2.5. This will usually be a 4 or a 5 value card. On a block, that's already ridiculous enough. But you can reroll, right? Because you always activate the machine early, so you'll have one at least to reroll. So this can be upwards of a 7 as either an attack or a block. Because why not, right? As if your health total and block status with like end turns and 28 health was ridiculous enough. Yeah, you can defend for 7 or 6 quite reliably. Decent. But the way better use for the card, to be honest, is just slapping. Right, you have 4 copies of this. You will be able to attack with at least 2 of them in each game, probably. Right, and then you of course reroll for like 6s or 7s, and yeah, slapping opponents with 6s or 7s is just normal for Krang. Next, we have Warlord of Dimension X. 3 value versatile. After combat, reveal the top card of your deck and your opponent's deck. If your card's name is longer, draw it. Yes, you actually count which one is longer. It's such a weird card. Like, you and your opponent just sit there, reveal the card, and then just, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. And like, as you see, like, your card names are usually quite long. So you'll usually just draw a card with this, but it's such a weird effect. Like, why is it conditional on this? Why? It didn't have to be this complicated. It's so weird, but I like it. Also note that only you draw the card, so if your opponent's card's name is longer, just nothing happens, and it's just a blank 3. So yeah, in best case, this is a 3 with draw 1. In worst case, it's a blank 3. It's nothing special, it's an okay card, but the effect is just funky. And speaking of funky effects, it doesn't get better. We have Pan-Dimensional Portal. It's a 3 value versatile with a random boost value again. After combat, place a fighter in the combat in any space. Just that on its own is ridiculous enough, right? That is the most insane kiting tool in all of Unmatched. You can choose one of the fighters, either yourself or the opponent, and just yeet them to the other side of the board. Okay, wonderful. You can also yeet yourself out of the pin, which is quite nice. Although you also have like wings for that. But yeah, quite nice to have. But it doesn't stop there. They can't leave that space this turn. Okay, so you can set up stuff with this as well, right? You can basically, if the opponent is adjacent to you, you can put them to another space adjacent to you, like to a different one, and then they can't leave, so you guarantee a double attack. Okay, even more use cases for this card. You can set up double attacks, you can kite insanely well. What can you not do? Okay, both players put random cards from their hand on the bottom of the decks. What? I may repeat, it's a random amount of random cards. Who thought of this? Use cases for that effect. Fatigue. You have, let's say, 5 cards in hand. They have 2. You roll a 5. You put 5 cards back in deck. They 2. So your deck goes up by 3 in comparison. Decent. Or, if you only have bad cards in hand, you might just roll a 5 to basically put all the bad cards back in deck. After, you will both draw 2 cards. So you replace your cards a bit. And you might do the same for the opponent, where if you assume they have a good hand, maybe, I don't know, Achilles, who just got enraged and whatever, and you discarded only pet cards, you might play this just to say, okay, yeah, shuffle all those back, I don't want to deal with that. Why not? It can buy you time. Ridiculous card. This has so many uses. It is probably the most insane card in the deck, next to IQ, but also like the most versatile and most interesting one, in my opinion. Because there's so many things you can do with this. You can kite, you can set up double attacks, you can increase your fatigue total, you can remove your opponent's hand advantage, you can recycle your hand just to draw new cards. That's so many use cases. Oh, and you can boost, right? Because you will see you have a boostable attack. And this can be a 5-value boost. Insanely versatile card. Then we have a 1-value attack, Android Arms Missiles. You may play this card face up as a ranged attack. Like, as if this deck wasn't weird enough. You can now also attack from ranged as a melee fighter. Like, we already saw something similar with Eridin with a Foul Purpose to just nuke someone at the other side of the board, but this also just like, okay, yeah, I'm attacking you from ranged now. It's not that strong, don't get me wrong, but it's weird that this deck can do so many weird things. Then during combat, increase this card's value by die. So yeah, whenever you attack from range, they know it's this card, because you play it face up, and they definitely will think about what to do against it then. Of course, fainting is a great option, because you know what it is, it won't deal damage. But at the same time, is it really necessary to feint? Not really. Like, 3 or 4 value block will usually be enough against this, because again, expected die value is 2.5. So, even if you high roll with a 4, this will only be a 5. Only be a ranged 5. It can be a 6. Like, slapping the opponent for a 3 ranged 6 is just average things Krang do. It's so ridiculous that this card is one of the worst cards in the deck. Like, it's technically ranged 6 or ranged 5 more reliable. And it's not even that good. At what point are we in Unmatched? That ranged 5s or 6s are not that good anymore. But yeah, it's an okay card. It's nothing too scary. Then we have Android Arms, Chain Flail. After combat, it's a 2 value. If the printed value of your opponent's card is less than die, or they didn't play a card, they discard 2 cards. What? Yeah, usual block value is 3. And since your die can only roll 0 to 5, there's like a 1/3 chance that you'll get above a 3 by rolling a 4 or a 5. However, you can reroll, so that chance is actually way higher. This is a wonderful card to throw into one-half sidekicks, because as you see, you don't really have any ping damage except for wings, and we already talked about why that doesn't really work. So this is just great, because one-half sidekicks are likely to take, and again, if they don't defend against this card, they discard 2 cards. Why not? Disruption. Wonderful. Potentially 6 discards. Why not? On the other hand, if the opponent played some kind of 3-value block, rerolling on this is definitely worth, because discarding 2 cards is such a huge value swing that it's almost always worth, especially if you're playing against a fighter that's like low-ish on or slow-ish on the draw side. Like I played the Krang Moon Knight matchup a couple of times to test for Barcelona, and this card ruins Moon Knight's life, because all of Moon Knight's values are like 3s or 2s because of Mr. Knight bonus, of course, and just like discarding the whole time is, oh, it feels so bad. Okay, yeah. I think this is most of the time worth, of course, if the opponent defends for like a skirmish or something. Yeah, you just take that and bait it out a skirmish, and then they don't have 4-value block against your 7th or 8th, as we'll get to. So yeah, decent card, really disruptive. And then we'll get to Android Arms Power Bomb. 3-value attack. During combat, you may boost this card. You technically have 5-value boosts with Pan-Dimensional or IQ. I think you almost never boost with IQ. That card is just way too valuable for your game plan, for your deck. Portal might be considered. Definitely worth boosting with it. Other than that, I think primary boost, Warlord of Dimension X, is quite nice. That's a really good boost. Android Arms is quite nice with wings. I think those 2 are like your primary boost targets. And then if you want and can afford it, Portal is quite nice if you have enough machines to reroll for a 4 or a 5. And then this can technically be an 8. Because why not? But like just being an 8-value attack isn't enough, of course. So after combat, move the opposing fighter a number of spaces equal to the amount of damage dealt, which is basically the same effect as swinging kick for Spider-Man. It's really good for kiting. Like if you're smacking them from 8, for an 8, you'll probably do like 4 or 5 damage, so you can yeet them to the other side of the board, and they can't attack you back. And why? The only question I have is why? Why? Wasn't this card already good enough with just being a potential 8? Why? Yeah, overall, Krang is a really, really, really strong fighter. Like, he's AA+, minimum. It's all about when he gets IQ, in my opinion. Because that is the thing that keeps your hand up, keeps your health high, lets you be able to attack with all your versatiles. It gets your machine cycle going. And of course, if you don't draw these, you only have so many options, because you often want to cancel with these, so you don't get machines here. Here you get machines, but you basically always already spent them again. So that's like, okay, if you don't get your machine cycle, your cards become so much less scary, right? Because you don't get to do the thing you want. It's just pure randomness, which can still turn out bad, but at that point it's not as ridiculous anymore. But of course, if you get all of your machines and IQs rolling, then yeah, it's not a fun time. My dad still curses me for playing Krang versus his Annie, and I won with full health. After playing all 3 schemes. He dealt me like 13 damage and I healed it all back up. Yeah, I don't know. Krang is ridiculous. Really, really strong. I already don't want to imagine playing against him in competitive. Like, what did they think? But yeah. Try him. If you don't take the game too serious, he's a lot of fun. Okay, now to round this thing up, we have Shredder. Shredder is a 15 health melee fighter, move 3, We have Bebop and Rocksteady, which is one sidekick, just like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern from Hamlet, who are also melee, 7 health, and your ability is Master of the Clan. At the start of your turn, deploy a foot soldier to a path adjacent to a friendly fighter. You may attack opposing fighters adjacent to foot soldiers. If an opponent boosts their maneuver, they may remove any foot soldiers their hero moves through. So, to dissect this, starting your turn, you deploy a foot soldier to a path. These are foot soldiers. It's just these small little tokens that you put on the usual paths for the maps, like the usual black connections. You deploy a foot soldier to a path adjacent to a friendly fighter, meaning either adjacent to Shredder or Bebop and Rocksteady. Then you may attack opposing fighters adjacent to foot soldiers. So, even if you are on the other side of the board, if the opponent is adjacent to a foot soldier or to a path with a foot soldier, you can attack them. You meaning both Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady. And then if an opponent boosts their maneuver, they may remove any foot soldiers their hero moves through. So if they boost over a path with foot soldiers, the foot soldiers are gone. Let's start with the deck. Obedient subjects. Shredder only scheme. 2 copies. Gain 1 action for each foot soldier adjacent to Shredder. Now, do you see a problem with this card? Because I do. Most maps have spaces with 5 or even 6 connections to them. So what you usually do is you camp that space with either Shredder or Rocksteady, and you swap between the two depending on who you want to be attacked with, or who you want to get attacked, to say. And then once you placed your 5 or 6 foot soldiers, you can play one of these schemes. You start with 2 actions, you spend 1, gain 5 actions. You're at 6 actions. You spend 1, go down to 5, play the other scheme. You are at 10 actions left in the turn. And then you can attack the opposing fighter or hero, let's say, usually 7 or 8 times in a turn, with cards that are not meant for action gains. So you have actually good values. This is one of the most broken cards in all of Unmatched. At first when I saw this, okay, yeah, no one uses this, and yeah, you just play it as a pass, and like, yeah, with the rest how the deck was looking, yeah, it looked like a fatigue fighter. Just like maneuvering away, attacking from ranged with foot soldiers, poking at them. Nope. I think that was the thought process behind the design. But yeah, this card says no. Like, especially on maps, never play against Shredder on Kaer Morhen or Globe. Don't do it. He gets 14 actions in a turn. Yeah. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't matter what you do. Once Shredder plays these 2 schemes, you're dead. Nothing you can do about it. Okay, there are some things you can do about it. Random discard, or like chosen discard, any type of discard to lower his hand, means he will probably have to take 1 more maneuver each time. Brings his total attack count from like 8 to 7. Usually doesn't matter, but it helps. End turn. End turn is the only thing that saves you, reliably. Problem is, almost no one has end turns. Movement. Okay, yeah, each time you move away, he has to maneuver again. But again, that puts his total attack count from like 8 to 7, or 6 at best. And even if you don't die, you're at like, at, I don't know, 2 health. funny. Or anything that stops him from dealing you damage. Like, I don't know, Mississippi from any. If he goes for his big turn, you just play Mississippi and say, okay, yeah, attack me another 9 times. I don't die. Those are like the only specific cases where you can do anything against this. But, hey, you can boost and remove the soldiers, you say. Well, how do you do that when there's a fighter occupying the space adjacent to the passes? Like, if there is a fighter here, and there's a foot soldier adjacent to the path here, you would have to go through the path and through the opposing fighter to actually go over the foot soldier and remove him. And you can't do that because you can't move through opposing fighters with your maneuver. Except if you're Buffy. That's like why Buffy can play a game against him. But even then, Shredder has a normal deck. That's just his auto win. She can do something about his auto win. That's like, there are like 3 or 4 fighters in the whole game that can do something against his auto win. Who let this through? Who is to blame to that this character got released? How? Anyways. Next up. Back to work. For Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady recover 3 health. Even if they are defeated. Place them in a space as close as possible to Shredder. Yeah. You can revive your sidekick. That means Bebop and Rocksteady actually don't have 7 health, they have 13 health. They eat so many cards. It's insane. And that also means, okay, yeah, sure, you can bunker your funny space at the start of the game with Shredder. Then when the opponent comes to attack Shredder, you run away and put Bebop and Rocksteady there. They don't want to attack them because all cards used on Bebop and Rocksteady are just wasted. Right? Because you just revive them anyways. So you just take attacks, and then the opponent might be like, okay, yeah, funny, now they're dead, now I can go in that space. Nope, you revive them there again. Or you go there with Shredder and revive them behind you, so you can swap the whole time. And like, yeah, I've seen people in the Discord say, yeah, but you can't just bunker the space with Shredder. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. If you stay there with Shredder the whole time and don't maneuver, yeah, you die. But, like, use at least one brain cell. Absolutely ridiculous. It's so much health to chew through, and, like, getting to Shredder and actually pressuring him is so hard just because of that. It's, you hate to see it. And it even gets worse. Like, masterful defense. After combat, Shredder recovers 1 health for each adjacent foot soldier. Meaning, if you are in that funny space where you set up, Kiet told me of a game he had against Jerry where Bigfoot came and slapped Shredder with a lock. Shredder played this card and healed for 6. Meaning the lock dealt 6 damage and Shredder healed 2. Bigfoot's lock net healed Shredder by 2. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Bigfoot lock, one of the scariest attacks in the game, just like a blank 6 that always deals like 2 damage, heals the opponent. Who designed this character? Then, all according to plan. 3 value block. Your opponent gains 1 action. At the end of this turn, if they didn't play a scheme, they discard 2 cards. This card is kind of like 50-50. Depends a lot on who you're playing against. Giving the opponent an extra action to slap you is not that great. Because that's like the only counterplay to Shredder is killing him before he gets the schemes. Because once he gets the schemes, you're dead. So giving them an extra action to attack you, not great. If they're at low hand count, sure. The idea behind this is, okay, they might attack you again, but then, since they attacked again and probably didn't play a scheme that turn, they discard 2. Which is okay. Problem is if you're playing against fighters that have like schemes with action gains, which is also why like Mikey is quite good against him because he can just play Nunchaku and keep attacking. Or like fighters playing against fighters that have valuable schemes that they'd like to play, So, okay, sure, they don't attack you again, but they play the scheme anyways because they gain an extra action, because why not? Like red just dealing you an extra 2 damage with path or whatever. So this card can be very hit or miss depending on the matchup and on the game state. Um, it can be quite brutal for the opponent, having to discard 2 if they don't have a scheme or like no good option to attack with. But overall, I'd be very reluctant on playing this card, and just make sure you know when to. Then we have Perplexing Tactics. It's a Shredder only, 2-value versatile. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. If 10 or more foot soldiers are deployed, also ignore that card's value. Oh, by the way, you have like 24 or so foot soldiers, so yeah, you're not running out of them. So it's a cancel. Just having cancels fainting is great. Once 10 or more on the board, okay, yeah, you ignore, so you basically get a full defense no matter what they do. Usually once 10 or more are on the board, you're very close to your scheme turn, which means at that point they can't really do anything anymore. They can't even attack you anymore because you'll just ignore their value. And if somehow like you didn't manage to set up properly early because, I don't know, you got pressured too much and had to run away, you can still like quite reliably just say, okay, come at me, I'll ignore your attacks for like 3 turns. So yeah, no need. The only caveat about this card is it's Shredder only, so Bebop and Rocksteady don't have cancels. So there is something to work around there, I guess. If you have chosen discards, attack Bebop and Rocksteady with them and pray you hit the scheme. And even then, that only removes his auto win. So yeah. In those matchups, however, where the opponent has like guaranteed chosen discard, Shredder just plays the scheme one at a time early and just gets like here 4, there 5 actions and just keeps pressuring because, yeah, that's only the auto win. He can still play a normal game. Then we have Master of the Foot. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to a foot soldier. On the 2-value versatile. Kind of like the regroup of the deck. It's nothing special. It's defense. So, yeah, sure. And 1 ping. But it's nothing too crazy. It's like definitely like one of the worst cards in the deck. And yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Can be quite nice against 1/2 sidekicks if you spread your foot soldiers, but like no one does that. So yeah, it's not great. Usually like blank 2 or 2 with 1 ping to the opponent. And then Think Card. 3 versatile. After combat, draw 1 card for each foot soldier adjacent to the opposing fighter. That's the effect that the scheme and like another card later should have been, with foot soldiers adjacent to the opposing fighter, but for some reason it's adjacent to Shredder on the other cards. Why not? This one, for Bebop and Rocksteady, it's fine. Like, it's a defense for them. If you have this when they get attacked, you just always throw it just to waste more value. And other than that, it's okay. Like, when you're on your big nuke turn, you can attack with this to like replenish your hand without having to maneuver, so I guess it spares you some actions there, but usually once you're on your nuke turn, they're dead anyway, so who really cares? Overall, it's quite a mediocre card. You won't draw much from it, and you just defend Rocksteady and Bebop with it just to make the opponent waste value. Then we have Longshot. If the opposing fighter is adjacent to your fight, is not adjacent to your fighter, the value of this card is 5 instead. We know this from any stack. Quite nice against range fighters if they attack Shredder, which is like one of his weaknesses because, yeah, he doesn't want to be attacked that often. Who would have thought? You can just defend for 5 against them, and of course you can also attack with this as a 5 if they are adjacent to a foot soldier. You just maneuver away, and yeah, you can attack everything adjacent to foot soldiers. So this is quite the reliable 5-value attack because why not? So yeah. You have a couple of 5s to throw on your big action turn. I wonder if it will get any higher than that. And yeah. Other than that, we have Disrupting Strike, another 3-value versatile. Immediately, the value of your opponent's card is equal to its printed value and cannot be changed. This time for Shredder only. So yeah, next to like an auto win, Shredder now also has cancel, ignore, and set value. Okay. Your opponent can't use any of their funny attacks. Wonderful. Yeah, it's an okay card. It's very interaction dependent, but it can definitely just be huge. This into a void home or something later, just setting its value, or into a big reveal or whatever. Ugh. Ugh, disgusting. Disgusting. Okay, a card on its own in the context of the deck. Blech. Then we have Gang Up. 3-value attack for Bebop and Rocksteady. If the opposing fighter is adjacent to 2 or more foot soldiers, this card's value is 6 instead. Basically never happens. Boost fodder, like, you can only place 1 at the start of your turn, adjacent to one of your fighters, so the opponent will basically never be adjacent to 2 or more. Usually only 1 if they were to approach you. So yeah, basically never happens. What you do is, yeah, you camp that 1 space, you overdraw. This is one of your peak overdraw targets until you find the scheme, and then you just win. So this is just like a waste card. Bye-bye. Then we have Savagery. We already know this from Bigfoot. 4-value attack. If you want to combat, do 1 damage to each fighter adjacent to your fighter. Quite a nice card. Basically another 5 to throw on your big turn. Bebop and Rocksteady can also play this just to keep the opponent's hand low. If you have the time and don't need to draw the whole time. That's quite nice. Then we have Gruff Escort. 4-value attack for Bebop and Rocksteady. After combat, deploy 2 foot soldiers anywhere. Move Shredder up to 2 spaces. This is one card that you definitely want to keep for your big combo turn. Just because, of course, if you start your combo in that 1 space, Shredder has to be in that space. So you'll gain like 12 actions. And then, of course, you won't instantly be able to attack the opponent with Shredder because they will probably be on the other side of the board, or at least not adjacent to you. So what you do is you move in with Bebop and Rocksteady. You maybe revive them first because you have the time. You have 12 actions. Then you attack with this, deploy foot soldiers next to them, and then Shredder can actually hit them. Because, right, foot soldiers adjacent means Shredder can hit them. And with what should he hit them then? Well, with Swarming Strike. It's a 5-value attack for Shredder and says, during combat, add +1 to this card's value for each adjacent foot soldier. Yeah, this should have been a print 1. Like, you're already setting up a turn where you have like 5 or 6 foot soldiers adjacent to Shredder. Play the scheme. You have like 10 or 12 actions left. You go in, play these cards, put foot soldiers adjacent to them, so Shredder can hit them, and then he can hit them from ranged with 3 10-value attacks. Because this is +1 for each foot soldier adjacent to Shredder, and Shredder is in the space that you camped. How did this fighter exist? How? Yeah, I have no clue. Shredder is insanely busted. He's like Sherlock level broken. He's easily S+ tier. He will be permabanned in each and every single competitive tournament. And that's for the better. Ridiculous. But yeah. Finally, at least, that's it. I don't have to talk about Shredder again. I hate this guy. I don't know if you could see, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, I will have to see what to do in the next couple of days or whatever. If I'll be able to get another video out before Barcelona, I don't know. I'll see, maybe some of the games there get recorded, so yeah, I might be able to post some gameplay footage from there. I don't know. We'll have to see. So, again, thank you a lot for the 1K subs. It means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed this video and all the other ones as well. As always, leave feedback, questions in the comments. Whatever you'd like to know, just write it there, or if you have any suggestions for future videos. Like, this one is also just one that I just saw a couple of hours ago. I was like, oh yeah, actually, that's the perfect video to start getting back into YouTube, because I was like, yeah, well, I want to start here like shortly before Barcelona or shortly after again. We're making videos, and I was like, okay, yeah, actually, that idea is perfect. Let me do that. So yeah, I tried to listen to you guys, and yeah, I guess we'll see each other in the next time. Bye bye.